Thousands of farmers across the state of Ohio work land just like this to nourish a growing population. But for energy companies in southeast Ohio, the real crop is underground, thousands of feet below the surface. Oil and natural gas have had a long and prosperous history in the Buckeye State, which was once the largest producer of oil in the world. In our first segment, we take a look at that important history and how it continues to shape this great state.
In the winter, the farms of southeast Ohio can seem lifeless. But while farmers wait eagerly for planting season, one group of people takes advantage of their off-season by harvesting a less common crop.
We are an oil and gas producer exclusively in Ohio. We drill and produce wells throughout the state. We own approximately 460 wells.
Companies like Knox Energy out of Pataskala tap Ohio's underground resources to produce approximately 12% of the state's gas consumption.
Knox Energy is very typical of what you find here in Ohio. There is no big oil here in Ohio, as people classify it. In Ohio, these are what we refer to as independent producers. So a lot of these are second, third, fourth generation families in the oil and gas business.
Knox is a family-owned company. We've drilled about 100 plus wells in this area of Licking County, Ohio. We also have some other areas where we've drilled, but this is our primary area for the last couple of years.
The farmers are going to want to get in these fields in April. So when they start calling, we're going to start working. We're running 2 drilling rigs right now. It'll look like this for probably the next 30 to 60 days. When we're done with our cleanup work, we're usually tying up a 20-foot by 20-foot square around the well itself. Most of the farmers will plant right up to them, and that's fine with us.
The landowner owns the land, and we have absolutely no right to come on their land. We have no right to drill anything or do anything until they agree with us to do this on a joint basis. So they enter into typically an oil and gas lease with us.
As a partner with Knox Energy, landowners get a portion of the well's profit in addition to gas to heat their homes. But they also get the benefit of dealing with local people.
The landowners, they know that you're part of the community, and so that you see them every day. You're not coming in from out of state and drilling it and then not worrying about how it looks or how you operate it.
And as it turns out, local oil and gas companies have a bit more in common with farmers than it appears.
I was out on a well last year with a local farmer, and he kind of scratched his head and said, that's a lot like us. You put your drilling rig in the ground and you put the hole in the ground and you don't know what you're going to get. And that's a lot like us, because we'll put a crop of corn in and we won't know if we're going to get a good crop or a bad crop, what the price is going to be. And so we consider oil and gas drilling and producing a lot like the farming business in a way.
Another thing these two industries have in common is a long and significant history in the state of Ohio.
Most people don't realize the amount of drilling for oil and gas that has taken place in Ohio over time. Ohio has a very rich, very exciting history of oil and gas drilling. It has been very important to the economic development of the state, the population development of the state, and very important to our industrial growth.
In the mid-1800s, oil was so plentiful in Ohio that pioneers digging wells might accidentally encounter the strange-smelling substance. But these encounters were not the fortune-making discoveries we think of today. In a world without gas-heated homes or automobiles, there was no true demand for the oil and natural gas that was so plentiful. In fact, this now valuable commodity was more of a nuisance to Ohio's early pioneers.
They didn't have a whole lot of uses for oil at that time. The big illuminating oils of that time were whale oil and coal oil. And they thought regular oil was inferior to them because it would give off smoke and so forth. But they just really hadn't learned to do refining yet. So they made it into a medicinal cure-all to sell, and in that way it became a commercial product. But once whale oil started becoming a real scarce commodity and they were running out of whales, they started looking for other products, and then they started looking at refining the oil better and removing those constituents, which is mainly sulfur, from the oil to make it a much better illuminating oil. After that, during the late 1880s and 90s, then the automobile started coming into place. That is what really made oil and gas take off. That, plus the fact that the Industrial Revolution really started taking off with factories and so forth. And then we started using oil furnaces and so forth for all that machinery and needing lubrications for that. So it's really the oil that was discovered in the early areas here, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, that really fueled America's big drive into the Industrial Revolution.
And when this new commodity was discovered in the Northwest, once small towns like Findlay grew to become large industrial cities.
In 1884, they discovered gas outside the city of Findlay, and Findlay decided they were going to boom their town on purpose and started drilling all of these gas wells and offered free gas to industries that would locate in their town. To help boom it, they hired an actual promoter to come in and promoted a 3-day event, and people from all over the country came to this big event. They erected arches over the downtown streets that they had natural gas run to these and would have 24-hour day torches basically lit off of these arches, and it really worked. Very successful. They got a lot of straw board companies. Northwestern Ohio in general attracted a lot of the glass industry, which was large at that time and needed a lot of gas for their furnaces. And just a lot of population came to the area because everybody was kind of like a gold rush. This is now an oil rush where everybody came in to make their fortune. The oil boom of Northwestern Ohio was Ohio's most significant oil production period. In 1896, it reached its peak at about 26 million barrels per year of production. And so at that point, that was the largest oil producing region in the world, having the highest volume of production. So you could say we were the Saudi Arabia of the world at that point.
But the rush to even larger amounts of oil led speculators out of state, and the booms of Northwest Ohio were soon forgotten.
Like a gold rush again, everybody went wherever the biggest action was. So once that Spindletop well hit in Texas, everybody that was in Northwestern Ohio fled down to Texas saying, well, there's the next big rush. That's where we've got to be. So it kind of led to the premature abandonment of the Northwestern Ohio boom that was happening at that point. And it kind of trickled down after that.
As the initial excitement for Ohio oil and gas died down, newer discoveries in the eastern part of the state, along with a rather resourceful group of Ohioans, have kept the industry alive.
It has been a very interesting evolution of the personnel involved in oil and gas drilling. From the early roots of drilling was pretty much anybody who could get involved, and a lot of fortune seekers. John Rockefeller and others got their starts in that early era and quickly grew into it with very large companies that became Standard Oil. But going along with that, the spirit, the American spirit of entrepreneurial nature has always been there, so that families would say, well, they're drilling for oil over there, I'm going to drill.
Ohio has a heritage going clear back into the late 1800s. When Ohio was the leading producer of oil in the world, These days we don't produce as much, but we were ready when we needed it.